Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another review of Bridgerton Season 1. This is episode 4. Now, some of you all said that you like me reading some of the lines, so I've incorporated a few lines in here as well. Some just because it's showing, a little bit of shade. Others because it gives context to the situation. So, at this point, Prince Friedrich and Daphne are the talk of the town. As she walks into court, you hear people calling her the incomparable. Her mother, meanwhile, is standing around sneaking little samples of desserts while pointing out how strained, her words, Daphne has been for the past few days. I personally feel like it's because she's upset, it's because she's hurt, it's because she's missing the Duke. The prince and the queen arrive, and he presents her with this huge, expensive diamond necklace. The queen is like, give it to her, give it to her, give it to her. because at this point, the queen is trying to make sure that Daphne gets married, not necessarily because she likes Daphne that much, but because she put her signature on Daphne. So he takes the necklace, gets behind her, places it around her neck. And as he's doing this, Daphne is fantasizing that Simon is the one who is standing behind her rather than the prince. Daphne, as I said in previous episodes, has it bad. Shortly after, we hear the narration of our favorite scandal sheet writer. In a town filled with ambitious mamas and fortune-hunting gentlemen, marrying above one's station is an art form indeed. But Mrs. Daphne Bridgerton's advance from future duchess to possible princess is an achievement that even this jaded author must applaud. Lady Whistledown is so shady. She arrives back home to her younger sister that has tons of questions about what her being with the prince was like and what her seeing the prince means. Is she to be the sister of a princess? Will her sister have to wear a crown? Does she have to learn another language? Questions that normally someone who is falling for someone may be excited to answer, but Daphne seems annoyed, and she also doesn't seem to want to know the answer herself. We hear Lady Whistledown continue. He may have let the diamond slip through his fingers for now, but I shall wager he is not a man to ever hide from a fight. And this is where we see the Duke. The Duke is with his close friend, Will, and we find out that Will is a boxer. He's telling him, please don't leave yet, along with his wife, because they need him to be there, because if they see that the Duke has the support of Will, that may help people want to be interested in the fight and bet, because I guess they have a gambling thing associated with this, and I guess sometimes he puts money into some stuff too, because people know that the Duke is his friend, and if he backs the Duke, then more people will flock. Elsewhere, we see Lady Featherington is in such a rush to marry Marina Thompson that she has this old man come and look at her as a future prospect. He's significantly older, and she's standing there and he's telling her, let me see your teeth and this and this. And it's like, okay, is she livestock? Because it kind of felt like what you would see back in the day when you're trying to determine whether or not you want to purchase a slave. And the fact that they do this, or they did this possibly back in 1813, shows me that we've had this thing messed up even in that. Because why are you all acting like these women are on display for you to determine by looking at their hips and their weight and their teeth and their face, whether they're worthy or not to be married to you? Marina is grossed out points out that she doesn't need to be nice to him, that she doesn't want him, that she is being courted by others. And we later see that one of her prospects is Colin Bridgerton, because after she dances with him, she tells Penelope that he's funny and he's nice and he comes from a good family, and that is who she wants, which would not be a big deal if Penelope herself didn't have feelings for Colin. It's time for the boxing match. Simon is already there. As I said, he's Will's friend, and apparently so is the prince. The prince and Daphne end up attending this boxing match together because he asked Anthony if he could bring her as like a date. Daphne is surprised to see Simon there, and she's glancing at him. There's times where he's glancing at her. She's surprised because the last time they spoke, he told her he would be leaving town immediately, which is what he was telling Will too, that he was leaving. So it wasn't that he was lying. He did have intentions on leaving. They don't talk, but they exchange meaningful gazes. She also gets all hot and bothered watching him as he's sitting there. Literally, y'all, this is what he did. The man rolled up his sleeves, and he was excited because he rolled up. She was excited because he rolled up his sleeves. She's standing there lusting after arms. I said, wow, not right here. We're lusting after these. I mean, everybody has their quirks. Apparently, that's Daphne's. Simon sees Daphne with the prince, and he's distracted by that interaction for a short moment. But he continues to support his friend Will, who eventually does win. It's time for the gentlemen to collect their funds, but Featherington doesn't have it because he looks like he's the bookie. He doesn't have it, and he tells them he needs 2 days to raise money. That let us know that something is going on with Lord Featherington, because why do you need 2 days when you're the one who organized this gambling ring situation? You should already have the funds in tow. We then see Benedict run into the artist he previously criticized at the art exhibit. This isn't at the boxing match. Just looks like it's at the place where all the men hang out. And he invites him to see some of his personal works that are much different from what he was criticizing when he was at the art exhibition. They're at his studio. And that in that same space, he says, okay. And in that same space, we see Anthony approach the Duke. And he says, I misjudged you. I was never quite certain, but now it is clear your intentions with Daphne were honorable after all. She has found herself a prince, and you are going away. At this point, it is clear that Anthony didn't even realize the Duke and Daphne's feelings towards each other, because if he did, he wouldn't have went to him and said that. While there, Anthony is approached by the prince, who is speaking to Anthony, and it's easy to say that he's probably asking for Daphne's hand. Meanwhile, the Duke looks on, and he can't take shots fast enough because of what he's seeing. He's bothered by it. Anthony arrives back home to tell Daphne he was asked for her hand. He says that he has learned from his lesson previously with the Lord Birdbrook. So he told the prince that he cannot give an answer. He knows better than to answer for his sister. So she needs to let him know when she makes her decision. Both her mother and Anthony tell her don't rush, because she's like she's struggling to figure out what she wants to say. And they're like, don't rush. Tell us, and you just let us know when you're ready. So her mom can tell, even in that moment, that the prince isn't really who Daphne wants. Later that evening, while Daphne is looking at herself and the diamond necklace that the prince gave her in the mirror, her mother approaches. We hear, "It's quite a necklace. Do you like it?" Daphne says, "It is very beautiful." Her mother says, "But do you like it?" Daphne says, "If you should have something to say, Mama, please say it." Her mom says, "Well, I only wonder, if you wear that necklace at tonight's ball, what will the Duke think?" Until you have decided to accept the prince's proposal, I simply think you should keep your mind open. So over here you got Daphne in shambles, basically, because the Duke and her are done. And you got the mama trying to encourage her not to give up and don't wear that necklace, because if the Duke sees that necklace, then he's really going to think it's done. Daphne continues, Mama, I do not care what the Duke thinks. Besides, he will not even be there at tonight's ball. Her mom says, what happened between the two of you? I know my daughter. I know it was not nothing between you. Daphne says, you do not know. You do not know anything. Her mother says, Daphne, I know what I saw. Daphne says, what you saw was a lie. It was a lie. It was a ruse. The Duke and I, we were pretending, and all so I could attract a suitor of high enough rank. Also, I could be that much more desirable. It was an agreement. It was an act, and it worked. We got what we wanted. You did too. Now I have a prince. You should be proud. Her mother said, what I wanted, dearest, was for you to have the best, not in terms of rank, but in terms of love. And what I have seen between you and the Duke, Daphne interrupts, it was not real, Mama. And her voice begins to crack. Everything you saw, none of it was real. Well, it's over now. I do not have to pretend any longer. I am sorry, Mama. I am sorry. And Lady Bridgerton tries to change the subject. But Lady Bridgerton is shocked because despite what Daphne is telling her, she knows what she saw. So yes, Daphne has admitted that I lied about this thing, that we were pretending here. But Daphne's mom is like, okay, you all are saying that you're pretending, but you can't make that type of chemistry up. And you can't. In a scene similar to this, we see Lady Danbury telling Simon that, you know, she expected more of him. Because he's leaving and he's telling her he's leaving. She's like, I expected more of you. And I'm going to quote some of their scene. She goes, the young man I have always taken pride in raising, well, I would have expected more discernment, more understanding, more appreciation. You allowed that young lady to slip through your fingers as if it were nothing. I understand that you believe such subjects as love and devotion, affection and attachment, you find it trite and frivolous. But have you any idea those things are precisely what have allowed a new day to begin to dawn in this society? Look at our queen. Look at our king. Look at their marriage. So this is the first mention of race on the show regarding the Caucasian king, who we haven't actually seen, and the Black queen. Simon points out that this might have allowed Black people back then to have titles, but it doesn't change everything. He says, love changes nothing. I promise to write you from wherever I land. I guess we'll talk further about that whole situation when I do Queen Charlotte, but it is rumored that the Queen Charlotte that they're speaking of is based on a real queen who was rumored to have been of mixed race, and one of her races was African American. So she's saying those two weren't even supposed to be together, and yet they fell in love and they were together. And because they fell in love and they were together, it made opportunities for so many other people. It allowed us as brown people to have titles that we previously didn't have. But Simon don't care about it. Simon doesn't want to hear anything about the love. We see another narration from Lady Whistledown. As we all know, there is nothing this author loves more than a scandal, and tonight's soiree promises more than its fair share. courtesy of the recently widowed Lady Trowbridge. Some may call her celebrations too provocative, and I would caution any young lady from getting caught up in the sensual nature of her fates. For one scandalous move between an unwed couple, a wayward touch, or heaven forbid, a kiss, would banish any young lady from society in a trail of ruin. Sounds like Lady Whistledown is giving us a little bit of insight into what's expected of ladies as well as what may come. Let's continue. At the ball, the prince is seen talking to Daphne while her mother is off to the side, irritated and stressed out by the whole thing, and she's chugging wine to the head, left and right. Simon is at home, supposed to be getting ready to leave, but he is upset and is trying to figure out why this painting is here when it was supposed to be gone. The painting that he's talking about is the one that Daphne helped explain. It's the one that is his mother's painting. He asks Jeffrey, who's one of the staff, why the painting is here. And he says, you requested it, sir. And let me remind you that it was not an easy thing for us to bring it back here. That is when he remembers and flashes back to him and Daphne standing and looking at that picture. We then see Benedict, who goes to the art studio. People are being sketched in the nude. Ladies are smoking. It's nothing as to what he expected, but he ends up enjoying himself there and is asked to come back another time. Back to the ball, the people are dancing to live music, courtesy of Sienna and crew. Anthony is distracted, and Lady Bridgerton sees it, doesn't like it, and takes another swig. Lady Bridgerton is getting twisted. Philippa, Lady Featherington's daughter, runs to her crying because the guy that was interested in her, Mr. Finch, had a talk with Penelope's dad, and he basically, whatever he said to her, to him, made him run off, which is assumed that, he didn't give permission to marry. What we end up finding out later is that no one, because, okay, I didn't write this in my notes. Lady Featherington ends up approaching him at the ball, questioning him as to why he didn't give approval. And he gets upset with her for doing that in public and embarrassing him, but also because his decision is supposed to be the final say-so because he's the man of the house. So Lady Featherington is like, okay, something is up that he would not do this. The whole point of us putting them out into society is so they can get married and get out of our house. So what she does is she goes home and she starts to dig through things in his office with her maid, the same one that forges things. And what we end up finding out is that he said no because they are broke. Not only has he spent all of their money, but he spent all of the girls' dowries, which means that if they were to get married, he wouldn't have anything to give to the husband, because back then when you married a woman, you received a dowry. So he doesn't have the money to pay for any dowries. Then on top of that, he owes Marina's father money too, which is probably the reason why she's been sent there in the first place, and why, after finding out that she was pregnant, he didn't send her back. Back to the ball. The prince is dancing with Daphne, and he begins to talk to her as if this is about to be a proposal. She tells him she needs to get a minute, and we see her run outside gasping for air. I mean, it's a... She grabs the necklace and yanks it off her neck. And as she's standing there, she runs across Simon. He tells her he came to say goodbye. He apologizes to her. They begin to argue about whether she could truly be happy with the prince. She says she'll be happy. He says, will you be happy? She says, why would I not be? Prince Frederick is kind and adoring, and he knows what he wants. He is a good man, and he will make a wonderful father. He says, and so you truly believe him to be the best man for you. She says, how dare you question my choices? They are my choices to make, not yours. I do not question your choice to rake across the continent. I was like, oh goodness, Daphne. Daphne is going in. I do not have to explain myself to you. I do not owe you anything. He is perfect for me. I am going to be a princess. Are you going to say anything? Are you? Well then, I'm going to leave. Very well. And she walks off, right? Well, not walks, storms off. He says, Mrs. Bridgerton, Mrs. Bridgerton, Mrs. Bridgerton, come back to the party. Stop walking. It's not safe out here. I forbid you to go any further. Daphne, will you not listen? And they're like this, and he's looking at her, and she's looking at him, and he kisses her. And then he pulls away, and he apologizes for it. And then Daphne is so taken aback, but excited, but perplexed, but liked it. She leans in and she kisses him. But y'all, this ain't no normal kiss. For this to be the first time she's kissing anyone, Daphne got some skills, because it was a full-on, I'm going to grab you, I'm going to rub you, Simon's going to kiss all over my neck and chest. Like, this is their first kiss. And unfortunately, Anthony finds them. Well, maybe I shouldn't say unfortunately, because if he didn't find them, they might have kept going. He ends up punching Simon in the face and demands that Simon marry Daphne, since to do anything less than that would be dishonorable to their family. Simon refuses. He's not going to do it. So Anthony, because it's all an honor thing, challenges him to a duel and tells him to make sure he's there by dawn. Can you imagine if your first kiss ended like this? Like, you are getting the first kiss from the man that you really like, just to then end up seeing him be challenged by your brother to be shot. Because that's what a duel is. They turn around, look at each other, and aim. The man that you've been waiting and wanting to kiss you for so long does so passionately, and then you find out that he doesn't want to marry you. So that too had to take Daphne by surprise. Anthony tells her, come on, we got to go before someone sees you out here. And she looks really flustered. So Anthony is escorting her back through the ballroom to take her home. He stops to tell his mom he's going to do it, take her home. And as Anthony is escorting her through the dance floor, Cressida approaches, comes up to her and says, Daphne, you look unwell. Did you catch a chill in the garden? Daphne didn't realize it at the time, but that statement lets us know that she knew where Daphne was. She knew that Daphne was in the garden. Once they reach home, Daphne tells Anthony she doesn't want them to duel, but he's unwilling to listen to her because after all, he's the man, he knows what to do. You see Simon going to Will to tell him that he's at his place digging for alcohol, looking for some bourbon or something. And Will is woken up, I guess, by it, comes in, sees him digging and stuff. And he's like, what are you doing? What do you want? And he's like, I need your best stuff, whatever. And he's like, why? He's like, because I'm to fight. He's challenged me to a duel with Anthony. So he knows Anthony and Simon were close friends. So that's one thing. Then on top of that, it's a duel. So he goes ahead and finds the best bourbon and pours him some, and he pours himself some. And he says, I'm going to be your second. And he's like, you don't know. You don't need to do that. And he says, no, I'm not. You're not asking me. I'm telling you I'm going to be your second. We see Anthony and Benedict talk as well, and he lets him know that he needs him to be his second. It turns out to me that Anthony may have been using this duel as a way to also leave, because apparently if he doesn't die, he has to flee the country because duels are illegal. So he goes to Sienna's place, lets her know that he might have to run away for them, or he might have a way for them to finally be free, which would involve them running away together. They end up sleeping together. That's the end of that. It's the next morning. Simon and Anthony are getting ready. They both arrive at different times. You hear Will ask Simon if there's anything that he needs to put in order, and Simon tells him, all my affairs are in order. You hear Anthony tell him, this is here, this is here. Benedict, there's a name in the top drawer of whatever. Promise me if anything happens to me, you'll take care of the lady's name who was on that paper. Simon and Anthony square up. There's a doctor there that's paid off just in case anything happens. Simon and Anthony are getting ready to shoot. But what I noticed in this shot is they turn facing back to back. Not towards each other, but across each other back. And then when it's time to go, they turn around and they aim. Simon had his weapon like this, whereas Anthony drew his. So it doesn't seem like Simon ever intended to shoot at Anthony. He was ready to die, my opinion. You all tell me yours. As they're getting ready to shoot, Daphne rides on her horse right in the middle of it while Anthony is shooting his weapon. You heard me right. Daphne gets in the middle while he fires his shot. So she falls to the ground. You think that she shot at first, but she and her horse are fine. Daphne then says, I need to talk to you, Simon. Please, to the side. So they go off to the side, and Daphne basically pleads with him to marry her because she's realized that Cressida saw them in the garden making out. So in her eyes, they're doomed. Simon says he can't marry her because he holds her in high regard and he can't give her the things that she needs. He knows that she wants love and she wants children. And he says, if we wed, I can never give you children. He knows it's her dream to be a mother. And he says she deserves everything that her heart desires. Yet you're telling her you can't give her children when it's really not that he can't, it's that he won't. Because there's a difference between can and won't. He doesn't want to. Because as we know, he on his dad's dying deathbed, the last thing he told him is that he would never father an heir for him. He says, please stand aside and let your brother do this, which confirms to me that he was ready to die because he says, let your brother do this. Simon goes back to the group to resume the duel, and Daphne says, there will be no need to resume. The Duke and I are to be married. And that is the end. It's getting good, right? I feel like, as I said, Simon cared about Daphne. Simon loved Daphne as she loved him, but Simon knew what he promised. And Simon, even with all of this, was willing to die for Daphne. Says a lot to me about where he stood with her. But you all let me know what you think. Until next time.